I thank you all for joining us for today's tutorial. This is Shashank Sharma, Assistant Manager, Central Board of Irrigation and Power, and I welcome you all to this two-day national tutorial on smart metering, taking the lead for large-scale rollout in India. First of all, I would like to give a brief introduction about CBIP. Central Board of Irrigation and Power is a premier institute set up by Government of India in 1927, and since 93 years we have been disseminating knowledge in the field of power sector, water resources sector, and renewable energy sector. I think many of you must be aware that we organize seminars, online tutorial programs, and conferences. These days, because of COVID-19, we have moved into online training programs. So this tutorial is being organized by CBIP under the aegis of SIGRE NSC C1 and D2. Now starting the inauguration session, I'm thankful that for the opening session we have with us Shri A.K. Bhattnagar, Director CBIP, Shri A.K. Mishra, Director National Smart Grid Mission Project Management Unit, Shri Ajay Rajani, Director OBO Consulting, former Group Head Digital Initiatives and Automation, Adani Electricity Mumbai, and former Group Head Technology and Innovation, Reliance Infrastructure Limited. Shri Vineet Mishra, Director Technology, Ernst and Young LLP. Today's tutorial will be a 90-minute session, and at the end of the sessions, there will be Q&A. Now, without any further delay, I shall invite Shri A.K. Bhattnagar for the welcome address, please.
Thank you, Shashank. Thank you. I welcome all the participants, all the faculty members, the total group on this program, online tutorial on smart metering, taking a leap for the large-scale rollout in India, which is being organized by CBIP in association with SIGRE, National Study Committee C1 and D2. You know the new norms and the time, and we have accepted this fact and gone ahead with the physical conference instead of physical conferencing on the webinars. So we welcome you all to. This is a very good knowledge sharing platform for us, and we are honored to have Mr. Mishra, Director National Smart Grid Mission, with us. Welcome, Mishra sir. And we have he's a known personality in power sector, so we are very much thankful to him for his contribution to the industry, the sector, and CBIP. Thank you, sir. And he is one energetic, excellent professional of this country. He got a vast experience of around 3 decades. So we welcome you. We are also grateful in accepting, sir, for accepting our request. And we have a participant, more than 65 participants now, and a few will be joining. And this is a great knowledge sharing, sir. We are also honored to have with us Ajay Rajani ji, and Director OBO Consulting. Thank you, Rajani sir, for joining us and sharing your knowledge. And we also have Shri Vineet Mishra ji, Director Technology, E&I. So all are welcome on this platform. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very big opportunity. All the participants can get this opportunity by interacting with all the experts in their field. They are best in their respective fields. So it will be a great learning for all of us. And sir, with your contribution, not only the participant, the industry is also getting benefit. So I'm sure the whole participant lot will get benefited. And I will not take much time, sir. You are most welcome, and we welcome you all. Thank you. Over to you, Shashank.
For inviting Shri A.K. Mishra for the keynote address, I would like to give a brief introduction about our keynote speaker. Shri Arun Kumar Mishra is Director, National Smart Grid Mission, having 26 years of vast power sector experience. He is an electrical engineer from the Regional Engineering College, Kurukshetra, and a certified ISMS lead auditor. Shri Mishra ji started his career with NTPC, later moving to Power Grid Corporation of India. His experience spans the planning, design, and implementation of power systems, information and communication technology, power utilities, SCADA, and smart grid applications. He has also undertaken feasibility studies and requirement analysis of load dispatch centers, besides designing their complex communication networks. Mishra ji is a member of the SIGRE Indian National System Committee on Information Systems and Telecommunications and the BIS Sectional Committee of LITD 10 for Power System Control and Associated Communications. As director of the NSGM, he is responsible for achieving the objective of the mission to transform the power sector into a secure, adaptive, and digitally enabled ecosystem that provides reliable and quality energy for all. Mishra ji has immense interest in smart grids development. He explains a smart grid ecosystem entails research and development, formation of standards, functionalities, communication, and outreach programs, training and collaboration, but the foremost is readiness to change. So now I would like to invite Shri A.K. Mishra for the keynote address, please. Sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm audible. Thank you, and I propose to introduce the participant to the concept of National Smart Grid Mission and how come the issue of a smart grid and a smart metering is interchangeably used. So these two are my focal point, and of course the background on where we are as far as smart metering is concerned. So I think I can use some PPTs. I'm trying to upload my presentation. Right, so it is loading basically. From my Is it visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Fine, so I'll try to finish it off in 15 minutes so that there are any question answers we can take up. In general, for a smart grid is electricity network which can cost efficiently, and remember that's the primary thing, cost efficiency. It has to integrate the behavior and action of all users connected to it. So everyone is active in the smart grid, not passive. And who they are? Generator, consumer, and those that do both the activity. And what's the idea is ensure economic, efficient, sustainable power system with low losses and high level of quality and security of supply. Now that's easier said than done, given the fact that there are multiple stages and multiple elements. Thermal generation is quite mature as on today. Nuclear generation is equally mature. Of course, there are always development. Solar generation is coming to maturity, especially in terms of giving grid support and things like that. And same is true for wind generation. And of course, the grid is primarily not the element itself or not even the connector, but the ability to sustain the voltage and relative angle between the two, which makes the grid. So that requires a lot of activity, monitoring, control, and preemptive at transmission and distribution level. So monitoring and control are quite mature as such. Energy storage is beginning to show up, and of course, the edge homes, cars, as well as other consumers, they are getting into the mold. So this shows the level of maturity of all these elements in my assessment as of now, and that's for the geography we are talking about. So that's India. If you talk about a different system, the maturity level could be different. Traditionally, smart grid is central generation, transmission with quite robust control and networking, distribution and consumer where localized controls are there. Then you have changes. A smart grid is where central generation is having a consumer side generation as well. And transmission and distribution, both network have to accommodate variation on either side. So the coordinated control among the two will be required. And in a different framework, both transmission and distribution ultimately will have SCADA, ABT, PMU, that's monitoring, sensor, substation automation, and there will be EMS, DMS, and applications. So basically, monitoring and control aspect in transmission and distributions, they will converge. There will be equally important monitoring and control and distribution also. Sub-transmission, the renewables are already demanding. Now, International Energy Agency says that why utilities go for smart grid drivers, reliability, efficiency, economic, environmental region, security in case of cyber, otherwise national security of energy, safety, and of course, requirement like you have aging infrastructure, you want to replace, upgrade, make it more modern. So that's the range of requirement which is more than 20. However, on a survey it was by ISGAN, it was revealed that system efficiency improvement, reliability improvement, renewable energy requirement, enabling new product, customer switching and reducing O&M and customer involvement, those were treated as most important smart grid requirement and driver for utilities. For these drivers, the technology which was rated top among all the five was advanced metering infrastructure for three objectives, that is new product or for that matter reliability improvement or system efficiency improvement and enabling customer choices. And of course, it was figuring in enabling the reliability as well as reducing O&M cost. So that's the convergence of a smart grid and a smart metering. So rightly so, the Smart Grid initiative have historically attempted to address these technological inputs for smart metering. And of course, the smart grid is being addressed along with. In India, Government of India set up India Smart Grid Task Force as well as India Smart Grid Forum. These two are different, always remember that. And that was in 10. Then major breakthrough was in 13 that roadmap was developed and pilot project were sanctioned in 12. More recently, what we have seen is that NSGM, which was of course the transformation of India Smart Grid Task Force into NSGM in 2015. So that has come up with its framework and for request for proposal for a standard bidding document for AMI, and that was in 19. And in 20, NSGM has come up with AMI SBD, wherein the service provider can be paid as you save. So that's what utilities can target. If you are saving, you can pay them. And that has been successfully leveraged by EESL also. I hope the slides are moving with what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Fine. NSGM was established in 2015 and it is not only a central entity. There are state level project management unit and Andhra, Assam, like 19 states have already established them. It has a bilingual website where you can reach for document, for interaction, deliberation, as well as for data. NPMU, which I had, has a minimal some 5-7 people's team, and basic idea is we coordinate for the policy as well as small scale project requirement which we have sanctioned. Project formulation for pre-feasibility, technical selection, technology selection guidelines. That's where we are focusing majorly nowadays. Cost benefit analysis and financing models, so that we have already encouraged and some have actually been discovered by utilities themselves. We have funding support of 30% only. So training and capacity building, this is one of the exercise where we are active, and of course we have taken earlier support of CVIP, and when this seminar was on, I wanted to join as well as contribute, so I reached out to CVIP that yes, the CEO or NSGM perspective should always be included for a smart metering. You might be aware that consumer awareness initiative and consumer rights have been has been notified recently, and project appraisal and post implementation, of course, that's part of NSGM activity. Where we have been, the smart grid pilot projects which were sanctioned in 12, so 12 to 14, 11 projects were sanctioned. They costed around 254 crore. Between 16 and 19, 1.5 lakh smart meters were installed, and there were all sort of discoveries in terms of product, in terms of standard, in terms of deployment challenge, in terms of guidelines available, in terms of CEA's metering guidelines. So all those challenges were tackled, and between 7 award were placed, and between 17 and 20 we have the pilot projects which are depicted on right hand side with the green. They are already in the commissioning. The project have been closed in terms of financial capital expenditure, but they are operative, and I have some slide to share as an insight from them. Similarly, then there is between 19 and 20 an impact assessment was carried out for these pilot projects. And what is the key learning is that new generation communication technologies, they need some time improvement. The kind of technology which was deployed in Mysore, some learning was there for the industry, and the one later on deployed and made available to MP in Indore is much improved. But you cannot have that experience unless there is that pilot project, unless there is that move from utility that okay, we'll test. Otherwise, whatever is as a technology is developed, the technology provider will continue to say this is the best. Then while moving in for pilot project, we understood that there were misgivings from all the practitioners that utility infrastructure will not support power line carrier. But that was short-lived when Tripura pilot project achieved more than 90% data availability in some of its pocket. Of course, there have been contractual and administrative issues, and the project isn't that number one as of now in performance, but the undue doubt on the infrastructure that it will not support power line carrier, or the doubt on power line carrier technology that it is not matured enough, those were put to rest. And of course, there were some new product providers which came into being. So what was the learning? So target during 12-14, the AT&C losses was a big challenge, and it continues to remain on an average basis. Of course, we have made it manageable, less than 20%, but in pockets it is quite high, and the impact has been achieved is significant. What Tripura thought that they will go for reduction up to 14%, they ended up bringing it down to 7%. And that's the kind of impact. Five-fold decrease in AT&C loss. Because you can do timely billing, you can do accurate billing, and you can bring consumers on board in terms of where they can save and what they can do for bringing their consumption in line. What was targeted in Puducherry was bringing down to 8.86%. They have not been able to through that successfully. Part of the reason is they have some meters yet to be deployed, and part maybe because they were overestimating their ability to get the commercial losses reduced or putting too much on commercial. What gives their feeling is there are technical issues in terms of losses in the distribution feeder, and there will be a necessity to realign some of the infrastructure. And this also is a discovery. Everything when we say AT&C loss, it is not always theft. So many times it is billing time issues, and so many times it is the infrastructure issues. Some transformers, if they are not well repaired, some feeders, if there is no well segregation and balancing of load between the phases, they also contribute to losses. Similar have been the experience 23 to 17% in Assam, and of course a varied degree on all the pilot projects. So that's a sample, that's what can be achieved and has been achieved for some period of time by all the pilot projects. Within NSGN, we have been able to create an ecosystem where the standard for a smart meter exists. 16444 AMI functional requirements are well established, and model smart grid adoption regulations, of course, they are under revision, but they have been adopted by some regulators. States have formed SLPMU. Workshops like this are being conducted, and more than 7.5 lakh smart meter have been projects have been sanctioned. But if you go to our website, you will find that all in all, we have in India, there are more than 97 lakhs meters projects are currently going on for deployment. More than 20 lakh meters have already been commissioned. And of course, there are projects in pipeline, more than 25 lakhs. And this has been a procurement nightmare for some of the industry and some of the utilities in terms of retendering and challenges. So standard bidding document have been developed to tackle that issue. And then we expect this 41 lakhs under IPDS are likely to further take traction. And that what challenge I was saying, that procurement and retendering, that's there have been in last 5 years close to 67 lakh meters. Some of them are now under deployment, but that kind of initiative have been cancelled. So that's why the standard bidding documents have been made by National Smart Grid Mission. But all in all, you will find that there are more than 1 crore metering, 1.5 crore metering projects going on. What we are seeing in future is AMISP standard bidding document should pave the way for pay as you save mode. Up to 25 crore meters in next 3 years or maybe more will be required. That will be 1.5 lakh crore projects all in all, and that's part of one of the inclusion in the reform link scheme which Government of India is contemplating. Government of India, we have to remember that meter is a utility asset as of now, and activity lies within states. Government of India has been able to bring an ecosystem where technology providers success value proposition, they are now very clear, and what we are looking forward to is movement on state utilities side. There have been advisory right from 2018 August, repeated in August 19, and of course reaffirmed in 2020 for all future meters to be smart meters. Smart prepaid meters as clarified in 19, and of course in some pockets you can go for prepaid meters also, given the current pandemic situation and need for avoiding billing and visits. So in 2020 prepaid as well has been given as a guideline. In moving forward, standardization on the radio frequency communication or power line communication is expected. We are expecting there will be plug and play communication standardization. You will hear more about that in tutorial today. And on regulatory side, wherever you can influence, make sure that the submission from utilities for multi includes provision for smart meters and includes provision for demand response, because that's where the ultimate value proposition lies. This is one of the inputs from pilot projects where what is being underscored is that you end up creating a network for all these short-term load requirement. And if there is a demand response and management at the utility level, you may go for optimize assets so that asset as well as consumer action, you have a win-win situation. All in all, a smart meter is going to pave the way for a smart grid, and a smart grid is the way forward for emerging power scenario where there will be a significant play of local consumer driven generation, storage, and other responses of megawatt, including efficiency improvement. Railway is already going for tens of thousand megawatt of solar. Same is true for so many industries, and not to speak of smart cities and of course educational institutions. So grid owner companies will have to move towards a smart grid where more than 30% of play will be left to this consumers, and they will invest based on the likely load, likely requirement, and that's where this granular data made available over a period of time from a smart meter will make a biggest difference. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm open for question and answers.
Thank you so much, sir, for your knowledgeable presentation. Now, I would like to request all the participants that if anyone wants to interact with Mishra, sir, he or she is most welcome to do so.
Otherwise, you can move ahead, and of course, any
Yes, sir.
query can be emailed to NSGM or my email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So, as already announced by sir, I would like to request all the participants, if any query is there, he or she can write it in the chat box. So now moving further into the program, as per the agenda, now the presentation shall be taken by Shri Ajay Rajani, Director OBO Consulting, former Group Head, Digital Initiatives and Automation, Adani Electricity. Now, before starting the presentation, I would like to give you all a brief intro about our eminent speaker. Shri Rajani has been the technology disruptor in the IoT and smart grid space for the past 18 years. He pioneered M2M in India and enjoys introducing disruptive products into established markets. He has been helping companies and planners use IoT technologies to help solve today's biggest challenges in energy management, public safety, intelligent traffic, and transportation, to name a few. He provided leadership for all technology initiatives as group head, digital initiatives, and automations for Adani Electricity Mumbai. He formulated the digital roadmap for the group's energy vertical and the adoption of technologies for an intelligent organization, including adoption of smart grids, electric vehicles, and artificial intelligence. At Reliance, he was the group head of technology and innovation. He also led the smart grid and IoT initiatives with oversight over major initiatives including smart meters, auto demand response, consumer engagement, wireless network for smart city applications, etc. He is currently director OBO Consulting. So now I would like to request Mr. Rajani to please take over with this presentation. Mr. Rajani, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction. Just wanted to understand, I'll share the presentation from my laptop. Is that the correct way, or you will be showing that?
Yes, sir, you can share the screen, please.
Okay, thank you. Now, first of all, thank you, Bhatnagar Saab, and Thank you, Arun Mishra ji. In fact, I will be referring to the National Smart Grid Mission and the stellar work done by, Mr. Arun Mishra for, where we are today, the significant achievements that we have made on smart metering. Can the screen be seen? I just wanted a confirmation.
Yes, sir, the screen is visible. You can go into full screen mode, please.
Yes, please. Thank you. Before I begin, of course, I don't know the profile of the participants, so I will dwell at a higher level. And if there are any questions, many of you who may want to drill down, most welcome. But before I begin, this was a wonderful overview by, Mr. Arun Mishra, my colleague from the industry. And I would like to mention here, up until for a long time, we've been speaking of smart grids, the roadmap, right from 2013 when we released the national smart grid roadmap. But if there was any point of time, where I could, or where we could really thump the table and say, you know what, this is it. And from here on, we can really see the large scale AMI rollouts. I would perhaps, point out to two significant milestones. First, of course, what ESL has done in terms of enabling large-scale procurement and deployment of AMI and smart meters. And of course, secondly, the AMI standard bidding documents that Dr. Mishra referred to by the National Smart Grid Mission a while ago. I would perhaps point at these two as the two key significant milestones that would allow for really scaling up for large-scale AMI rollouts in India. Without much ado, given the paucity of time, I'll try to be very crisp. And at the end of this, you can ask me further questions. I normally when I give presentations, I'm mostly asked to speak on communications, technology, etc. I have funneled and focused this presentation to the key factors that would enable the large-scale rollouts of smart meters in India. So quickly, there are 4 or 5 key factors, that would decide any country, any nations, and I'm talking at a very broad level, the adoption of smart grid and advanced metering infrastructure. They would necessarily be, of course, a regulatory and the policy environment, the technology standards, which of course they continue to evolve. It's not some golden bullet that is needed in terms of a silver bullet saying that this is the technology. Once we have this, we can really scale it up. It's usually a combination of these, the business case, the funding models, and of course, I have taken a separate section on the standard bidding documents released by my very illustrious colleague who spoke, Mr. Arun Mishra earlier from the National Smart Grid Mission, and a little more on funding models Q&A. So quickly, the policy, the important point is in India, after a significant amount of time, the policy is very clear now and very unambiguous, very focused. The government is very clear that they wish to implement 250 smart prepaid meters. When I use the word prepaid, that's of course the mode the government prefers. Technically, smart meters can be configured both in pre and postpaid mode. This is the first time in perhaps a decade, if I may say, having spent perhaps my large part of my entire career on smart grid, where I see strong support from the highest levels of the administration at the central level. I mean, this is very significant, and there are concrete steps being taken. As an example, we have seen how ESL has led the way, for procurement and deployment of large-scale smart meters. As far as the regulatory environment goes, it's very clear. The approvals are based on very clear cost-benefit analysis. It may be a different matter that the utilities today may have a challenge of trying to work out the specific cost-benefit analysis, but one event or one the RAP, the event as such, has really helped the utilities in doing an energy audit, and this is one of the key catalyzing indicators in terms of utilities to actually get a grip on their cost benefit analysis, because prior to our APDRP, with the absence of data, it was a big challenge for utilities to do a cost benefit analysis. It would usually be an estimation. Today, it's a very significant working. So absolutely clear support on the policy side. The regulators have always been clear. If there's a clear cost benefit analysis, they would approve a program or a project in AMI such as this. I would not like to get into regulatory assets and so on and so on. That may be a part of different presentation. The other part, besides policy and regulatory, would be the evaluation of the various technologies and methodologies. This is something that would get undue focus and preoccupation in terms, because the way it was visualized that if we just chose the right technology, we could have a very successful large-scale AMI. No, that's not the case. One would need a fantastic technology, a combination of it thereof, to meet a good level of SLA and performance. But the thing to understand is there are other factors: the policy, regulatory, the funding, the structuring, and not just the technology. Technology, as we all know, will evolve. Nothing remains constant on the field. As an example, one may deploy a wireless network today. It doesn't remain static. Again, I will not drill down. Maybe we could take a separate session or a separate Q&A session on this, but no technology or network remains static. They evolve. Even a wireless network deployed today keeps undergoing fine-tuning and changes depending on topological changes and changes in the environment, such as weather, etc., so on and so forth. So technology is not something that remains constant. Having said that, the two key enablers, when we look at our standards in India, Mr. Mishra also spoke on IS 16444. When we look at, I think India has perhaps today one of the best standards, the best supporting standards for wide adoption of smart meters. And those are primarily the IS 16444 and IS 15959. Very clear, very lucid. I have not seen examples of similar standards. Of course, IEEE is there, but as part of national standards which are focused in encouraging adoption, particularly taking care of the sensitivities of the Indian market and enabling a wider ecosystem, I would rate IS 16444 and IS 15959 right there at the top. And I'm very happy to see that there's actually been a very wide adoption of these standards. There are a lot of multinationals today. There's a very healthy ecosystem. And I've been speaking to a lot of people across the world, and everybody, perhaps except North America, large parts of the world, they are aware of our IS 16444 and IS 15959 standards. Of course, the two other things, not just to mention, but an important part is interoperability, which would assure a large scale or a scaling up of any deployments, because India is a competitive market. We typically have a open competitive bidding system. Unlike, for example, if you look at Italy, where Enel has perhaps almost a nationwide deployment. These kind of scenarios are not possible in India because we have so many utilities. So the two key things, which I see that as being a game changer here, as far as interoperability is concerned, is the adoption and implementation of IPv6 by the Department of Telecom for all the sectors. And this was mandated and implemented as early as 2015, 2016. 2016, the banks were mandated to adopt it, and subsequently the power sector and so on and so forth. Now, why do I mention the second point, the standard bidding documents for AMI? How can a bidding document be a game changer in terms of standards and interoperability? And I have very specifically mentioned this here. I will refer perhaps to the link for this. One could go online to the National Smart Grid Mission website and look at these documents. All across the world, of course, we have standards, but standards do not necessarily assure interoperability. And this has been one of the gating reasons for very large scale deployments because, uh, about not having stranded assets in terms of assets which are not interoperable. But once we look at these standards and the recommended specifications that have been published in these bidding documents, for the first time, perhaps I don't have any references globally, but for the first time, very similar to the telecom sector, whereby we have SIM cards which work in any handsets. A similar approach in this standard bidding documents, whereby all the suppliers would have to adhere to a particular specifications, both in terms of dimensions as well as in terms of performance. And this will assure a very high degree of interoperability without gating the ecosystem. It's very similar to this mobile telephony today, where you can buy any handset, Apple, Samsung, Android, whichever, take your any operator's SIM card, put it in a new handset, and they can work. This was not the case in the power sector. Uh, Things were very bespoke. Each vendor had their own meter, their own communication card with varying dimensions, pinouts, and so on and so forth. This documents brings a very high degree of uniformity to these kind of specifications to assure interoperability. So it was important that I mentioned. So not just the standards, but these specific specifications, and these two taken together will be the enabler for large-scale AMI deployments. How do we choose the selection criteria? So as I said, we have a very thriving ecosystem, but the key yardsticks with which to judge all of these, of course, would be reliability, scalability, very important, ability to meet present and future business needs and use cases. Utilities, we are a very large country. Use cases differ from utility to utility and depending on demographics and topographical changes on the field. A utility in Kashmir may have a very different use case than the one from Mumbai or Kanyakumari. And this should be one of the key yardsticks for choosing a technology. Of course, interoperability in open standards, which largely, for the first time perhaps in the world has, I think other than TEPCO in Japan, our national smart grid mission has been the only other agency that has issued specifications to the level of such granularity that will assure these interoperability. I'm really proud of National Smart Grid Mission and Mr. Arun Mishra. And of course, largely the total cost of ownership. Lastly, of course, the future proof, because we can't have stranded assets. As you will hear more going forward, we are looking at not just a 3-year or a 5-year AMI duration, but a much longer, 7 to 10 years. Of course, the return on investment could be earlier, but that's a typical model that the country is looking to in terms of involvement from whoever the vendor or operator for the smart meter is for the utility. So things have to be future-proof and stand the test of time. Now, as I said, a little one on technology, I will not drill down. So I've merely taken as an example, how to stack up, because the important point is there is no one silver bullet as far as technology is concerned, as far as communications technology, or just one simple thing saying that it's cheap or, we may meet our return on investment earlier. It has to be a combination of all these factors. We must assign equal, if not equitable weightage to all of these, such as technical performance, total cost of ownership, interoperability, adherence to standards, security, so on and so forth. It's kind of a simple comparison that we could do between several vendors. And of course, representatively, I have given the highest marks to IPv6 plus narrowband and LTE as a combination, because in India, in a particular utility also, we may have very varying cases from dense environments, which are horizontal to dense environments, which could be vertical. Both will require different technology. So there's no one cap size fits all, but a good comparison that takes into account all of these factors would be the right thing to do. The most important part, the business case. This is where large scale adoption, a lot of utilities, my colleague spoke of those 13 smart grid pilots. A lot of these utilities, post doing the pilots, have of course scaled it up. But some utilities, the challenge that they faced was actually the business. And this is a big barrier to scaling up. If the utility cannot, they may have a business case, but it's very important to actually go and define and articulate that business case in a very realistic manner, which will be approved by the regulator so that they can take it. So let's talk a bit about that. Now, up until now, uh, the, the large business case, if we spoke about any automatic meter reading or advanced metering infrastructure, smart meters 10 years ago, it was all about stopping theft. It was just about detecting and reducing theft. Uh, I use the word detecting, and there was no energy audit. What changed that was, of course, the RAP-DRP. We could debate endlessly on areas which it succeeded, it did well, where it did not do well. But for the first time, we had visibility into energy audit. We had proper accounting. We had proper books. The utilities did a GIS survey, so there was quantum jump. I mean, never has been such a large program ever carried out nationally, perhaps except China, but China also did not do in this big bang approach. And that changed everything. For a start, we could largely identify where the theft was taking place, what was the quantum of theft, and so on and so forth. And for, of course, quite some time, any business case centered around reducing theft, because fruit, that is not the case now. If you look at a lot of private utilities such as Tata's in Delhi, Adani in Mumbai, CSC in Kolkata, a large part of the return on investment is by operational improvement. They have very little theft, or wherever they have theft, they're very easily able to identify. They know where the theft is taking place, they know the quantum. But the large part of the business case for advanced metering infrastructure is borne by operational improvements. I will give a quick example before enumerating what's on the screen. For example, in Mumbai, we have about 300,000 operations, or truck rolls as we call it, on a yearly basis with customers. And what it simply means is if a consumer needs to be disconnected as per the regulatory norm, the law, one has to go and give a notice to the consumer, which is a truck roll. Someone has to go and physically serve a notice. Perchance if the consumer pays, well, then good. Then we go back and the utility goes back and reconnects the supply. If the consumer doesn't pay, then of course the second notice is issued and the supply is disconnected. Now each of this issuing of notice, physically going, connecting the fuse, reconnecting the fuse, is a truck roll. And a very significant number of operations carried out like this daily. Each of these truck roll cost a few hundred rupees for a person to travel and do that in a city like Mumbai. If they could obviate this just by way of smart meters with remote connect and disconnect and digital notification, they would have a significant saving. This is just to give an example on how the huge amount of operational benefits that can be derived out of smart meters if a proper business case is made. This is one of, and this is what I do, is I help a lot of utilities formulate the detailed business case, because it's not just simply about reducing theft. And today the theft has come down significantly from the levels that we had about 10, 12 years ago, both in terms of where it's taking place and the quantum. And today, the cost of new smart meters is actually almost less than the cost of retrofitting or installing a modem or an AMR system, bolt-on system that had a clear business case about 5 or 6 years ago, which was done in RAP-DRP. So today, if one looks at the dumb meter plus modem cost of RAP-DRP, twice the last recovery by ESL on smart meters. So that's very encouraging. That's welcome news, and can be one of the fantastic leverages for large scale adoption as we see ESL doing that. There's an absolutely clear policy support. There's been we are veering more towards prepaid metering as a default option because that obviates the obvious billing and so on and so forth. And they would like to participate in demands management. Of course, at the consumer level, we don't they don't react to pricing signals. It's largely for the high-end consumers where we have time of use billing and so on and so forth. But with more and more renewables, it's just a question of time for very significant time of day tariffs, etc., for which the smart meter would be mandatory because the consumer would need greater participation in the varying prices for the energy. So very clear-cut case for scaling this up, and it's not just about reducing theft. Earlier, we would have utilities that would say, look, I don't need AMR because I don't have, or I don't need smart meters because I don't have theft. That's not the case. I've just intentionally taken a 4 or 5 year old case study done for a small area called Gautam Nagar in Mumbai. And then we had estimated the price of new smart meters at 4,500 rupees. We know it's less than 3,000 rupees now. I don't want to get into specific pricing, and the cost of AMRs was 2,000. Even then, 4 years ago, the break-even point for Mumbai, where the theft is still in single digits, the overall losses is about 8%, including technical and distribution. Even for such utilities, the return on investment was roughly around 2 years, 1.85. So that's the point I was trying to make. If one does a very specific, very detailed business case analysis, there's an absolute fabulous case for large-scale adoption of AMR. A clear business case is not and should not be the gating point for that's a key. Last, if we have a great policy, we have great standards, we have the roadmap to interoperability, a clear business. But there was something else that was missing that perhaps prevented the large-scale adoption, and that was the funding and the new business model, which ESL showed us the way. In fact, I was part of a paper from the forum, India Smart Grid Forum, several years ago that spoke of adopting a lease model. Now, of course, we hadn't thought it down to the detailed extent that ESL did and made this into a reality. And then, of course, subsequently, I mentioned National Smart Grid Mission again because that's really been a game changer. Both these organizations, ESL and NSGM, have played a very stellar role. And let me tell you how. What they have done is, instead of giving a fillet of fish, in a manner of speaking, to the consumers, they've given the consumers a fishing rod, the utilities, to go ahead and deploy smart meters. Up until now, we heard my colleague spoke of funding from the National Smart Grid Mission to the utilities to encourage them, to push them to adopt all these technologies. And it was still a challenge for wider adoption. But what will really change the game for large-scale adoption is together with the clear policy, the clear standards, interoperability, would be this business model up, because we all know, it may make a great business case. I mean, for example, it may make a great business case both for the mind and soul and the body for a lot of you, maybe to be in Mauritius, but can we afford to be in Mauritius? The point is, the utility had a very clear-cut case of deploying smart meters, and even if they didn't have the money to do that. And this is where the whole thing changes again in a very good way. And this essentially takes the cost of indecision away, because even if the utility had a clear-cut business case, they knew they had great standards in the country, they just didn't have the money. And what this does is it introduces a new business model which has been pioneered by EESL and now spelled out in greater detail in the standard bidding documents released by National Smart Grid Mission, which is a lease-based approach, which is build, own, operate, transfer. So instead of the utility getting the money upfront for a capex, what it can do is it can go in and issue RFP for a lease model. In effect, there would be a lot more similar entities like ESL created. It's a fantastic document, and I will show you more about what the document speaks of. But essentially, the utility will not get the money upfront for the capex. They can run it as part of their operations. Today, all utilities, of course, run meter reading operations, and this is large part of their operational or OPEX spend. Maybe with a delta more for a longer year term, they could actually lease out new smart meters. I'm not going to go on this board, and perhaps everybody's familiar with these slides would get circulated, but for a large scale AMI implementation, these are the several blocks that one should look at it in greater detail. That is the detailed project planning, the consumer engagement plan from day one. It's important that is done. The technology, the communication network, what do we need, the integration, the backend system, the data to the utility to the consumers, all of those. Very simplifying. It's a very generic slide, so I may just go ahead. Now, here's what the new AMISP model that's been proposed by National Smart Grid Mission. And I will just break this down simply as the following, which, for easy understanding. One, it gets for the advanced metering infrastructure service provider, that is what they call, to get the money and offer, buy these smart meters or spend the money upfront to buy these smart meters and then lease it out to the utility. Up until now, if you look at this model, it did not really work. When we look at REP, DRP, if you go back and look at that, there really were an absence of big international players in that participation, and this has been largely corrected. So the way this has been structured is, whoever the AMISP would be who would invest this money up front would have a clear return on investment, would have a clear right of first charge the payment, such as an escrow or a letter of credit. They would have full reassurance. So what this does in a single shot, and this has been a game changer, we all know that there's a clear return on investment. There's a fantastic business case. There are clear-cut standards. There's a fantastic policy thrust. And there was money. I mean, if you look at globally, there's been a liquidity glut, but very little of this liquidity was actually pouring down into the power sector. A lot of it is going down for other startup companies. Of course, the stock market, a lot of money is chasing oil and precious metals, but very little was actually going into the core power sector. But a program like this, where the investors and multilateral agencies can invest their money, they know their money is safe, and they know they will make a return, which is, as per the business case. But they sit comfortable with the fact that their money is secure, that if they perform, if they do well, if they are sincere, their money would not be stuck because of any whimsical reasons. And this is a big game changer. This will allow the liquidity, the money to come into this sector for advance. So this is an absolute key enabler. This is a game changer. This is one of the silver bullets in terms of the payment structure, the security, etc. That's been specified by the government, by the mission, and we are already seeing it. A lot of big multinational companies are looking at India now. Obviously, we can't run a 250 million the size of scale with just local players. So we will have the best of the companies of worlds come in here and participate in this. So this is a really good quality signal that's gone out from the government, from the stakeholders to the global industry at large. This is a fantastic signal, and this has taken away the cost of indecision away from large funds and liquidity to come back into this and look at this closely. So big game changer. I couldn't stress this more. To summarize, of course, yes, we need the policy and regulatory support. We need the choice of correct technologies. I'll be more than happy to answer questions on that, given that's my forte. Of course, it needs a clear business case, the right business model in terms of a lease or a capex, funding for large-scale adoption, and what I've skipped, given the paucity of time, is a proper rollout. Integration, field deployments. Those are AMI. Something that I didn't want to gloss over given my utility background. Maybe some other time I could spell more details on that. But this is it for now, and I'll be happy to take any questions on this. Thank you. I am done. If any questions, I can take that, sir.
Hello. Ajayji?
Haji, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, Ajayji, this is Ashish from Advanced Amorphous Technology LLP. Actually, we are planning to start manufacturing these relays for smart meters.
Excellent.
And the thing, I mean, the apprehension which is in my mind is like what interaction I have with discoms. The main challenge for the smart meters is their installation. The work of installation is very slow, and like the government has given the task of installing 25 crore meters in 3 years. I mean, is that feasible? Will it be done, or and what are the challenges?
If you ask my personal view, of course, it will be done. Perhaps not in 3 years, of course. I mean, it was important to mention the timeline. It could take a little longer, of course, again with the COVID situation that we have. But that's a question better answered by my current colleagues from the government and the policymakers. But if you ask my opinion, yes, it's a tough task, but I don't see any reason, because if you look at what ESL has been doing, and if you break this up into smaller pieces, we are typically talking about 7 to 8 million meters every month, which is not such a tall task in terms of implementation if processes are implemented. Today, the key challenge that I see is absence of processes. This is something new. For large-scale deployment of smart meters would call for new processes, new methods to be able to do that. A lot of utilities are doing that. Let me give you an example, such as Indore. They have done 100,000 very quickly, which was not imaginable some time ago. JVVNL, they are deploying meters as we speak, several thousands in a day, very, very quickly. Tamil Nadu, 10 Jetco. So all of these ESL, Uttar Pradesh, what L&T has been doing, the highest hit rate that I've come across is about 3 to 4,000 meters in a day. So it is possible. It calls for adoption of strong processes, and I'm hopeful it will take off. So from your business point of view, if you are making relays or something, I would stick to that business, because the good times are there, and they are only set to expand.
Okay. And like one more thing, so like in UP, what I have heard in the event of Janmashtami, all the smart meters were shut due to there is some technical glitch, and there was a total blackout. So I think that there are some apprehensions, particularly in UP, because UP is a very big chunk for us to look into.
I would like to not answer that specifically. All I would like to state, because I know that it's not
Hello.
a technical glitch.
Pardon me.
No, I would like to avoid commenting on the UP, whatever the incident that happened. My colleagues from ESL, can better answer that, having had all the details. But all I can say is that it was not a technical glitch,
Okay.
maybe a process that was overruled, and they have strong process in place. And for a program, that is so large and done so fast, yes, maybe you'll have one of these few odd glitches. Having said that, if you look at ESL in terms of their procurement and deployment of smart meters, they have done exceedingly well. They have done very, very well, sir. So I would not be worried as one of the ecosystems. I would be very encouraged, and it's actually good times for you. I would advise you to stick to this business and reach out to all the other partners in smart meters.
Thank you so much, sir.
I would like to announce that the panel is open for discussions. The participants are free to interact with the speakers. If anyone has a question for Mr. Mishra or Mr. Rajani, the participants are most welcome. Okay, I can see 2 hands are raised.
Yeah,
I
good
would
evening. This is
yes, sir,
Roman from
please.
Mumbai Tata Power. My question is this NSGM funding is applicable to private utilities?
Mr. Roman, I would like to request you to please specify to whom you are asking the question.
I'm asking this to Ajay because in a presentation he has mentioned this NSGM funding regarding.
Sir, this is better answered by my colleague, Mr. Arun Mishra. But what I understand is that this was meant for public utilities uh, only. I am not aware of this, but they have had this funding for the 13 smart grid pilots, which were implemented by the state utilities. But he may be better able to throw light on this. When we were in Reliance, to the best of my knowledge, we didn't have this funding for the private utilities. These were meant for state utilities.
Thank you. I have one more question. See, we have a lot of challenge with respect to replacing existing, which are small meters, with smart meter, which are in bigger size. Mostly because of this relay inside the meter. And if we go by some utilities, the functionality of relay as such is not required because the distribution losses and collection efficiency and billing efficiency is almost at par. So whether this smart meter specification can drop or have the option of having a relay, because right now what I understand, this is a mandatory part for the smart meter. So can you throw some light in that direction? Can we have a smart meter without relay also?
Yes, of course you can. It's not mandatory for a smart meter. Smart meter by definition also should have remote connect disconnect, and a differentiation is a two-way communication, which is a cry out alarms as an example. But you have CTPT based meters where one cannot put a relay, one would need a switch gear if it has to. So there are smart meters which do not have relays or remote connect and disconnect built in. If your business case calls for meters without remote connect and disconnect, but two-way communication and all other functionalities of a smart meter, within the ambit and umbrella of IS 16444, you're free to specify specifications from Tata Power for smart meters without remote connect and disconnect. Absolutely no problems with that.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome.
Yes, more questions, please. I still can see two hands raised. Mr. Mandal.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good
My
afternoon.
Good
question,
afternoon.
sir, my question is to Sri Ajay Rajani sir ji.
Yes, please.
Sir, is there any provision for disaggregating the electrical consumption of residential homes, sir, and smart meters?
What you're calling is appliance and demand side management. Is that what your question is when you say disaggregating or segregating all the appliance loads within a particular house from a single smart
Yes, sir. Yes,
meter?
sir.
Is that what the no, the smart meter would measure the aggregate metrology of the incoming power to the house. There are a lot of aftermarket systems available. In fact, my colleagues at Reliance Jio, they were also trying for smart plugs. Those are also available freely on these e-tailers like Amazon and Flipkart, where you could, it's a simple plug and a socket. You put the plug into your existing socket and then plug your device into this, which measures the consumption, a simple metrology of the device, such as TVs, etc., connected to this. A smart meter will not be able to do a granular device or appliance level load management. It can do for the entire house. Uh, for if you need specific granular level consumptions of each of the appliances, you would need plug meters or these small devices for those appliances. However, there are companies like Smart Energy Water. For example, they're running a program in Southern California where they take the smart metering data and they know very well which are the appliances in terms of power consumption. For example, a heating load will cause a sudden peak. And based on these artificial intelligence and analytics, they can do a high degree of demand side management in terms of giving one a visibility on the consumption of devices within the home without plug metering also. So you could go up and look up that. Some of these examples are there. But a smart meter technically will give you consumption of the whole house, not just the device level.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're
Sir,
welcome.
I have one more question.
Yes,
Sir,
please.
are these smart meters means prone to any cyber attacks?
Yes. Anything that's connected to a device would technically, if I may use the word, be vulnerable to intrusion. I would not use the word cyber attack in general, but any intrusion, electronic surveillance intrusion, and so on and so forth. So answer to that is yes. But that doesn't mean that they are insecure, just that there is a possibility and there are mitigations taken for that. There's a separate vertical on cybersecurity and security of these smart meters.
Yes, sir. So, so one more question, sir.
I am okay if the organizers are okay. If you can make it quick because I see two more hands. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. What about this radio frequency radiation, sir? Is it harm? I think this may be harmful for the human health.
Okay, let me just put this simply. This is a good question that you asked. So which phone do you use?
Smartphone Android, sir.
Okay,
Samsung.
and no, you know the make of the phone that you're using? Any make? Tell me, is it Samsung, whichever? So you go take
Samsung.
the manufacturer, you go look up the leaflet, there'll be something called as SAR, specific absorption rate of micro radiation for the human body that's given in the safe limit. As an example, the iPhone 11 has a maximum safe limit of 11 minutes. That is, you should not be using that phone close to your ear for more than 11 minutes in a day. That's the safety level specified. Uh, so to put it in another way, you are more prone and you should be more worried about radiation from your Wi-Fi devices and cell phones in the house which are of an order of magnitude much more than what would be there for this from the smart meters. Let me qualify the statement very quickly. As an example, the largest radiation that you may have from a smart meter would be based if it had a cellular connectivity, a cellular NIC card or a modem, which is not very different from your cell phone. But unlike your cell phone, which is on you or close to you for most part of your the time that you're awake, the smart meter is down in the metering room or away in the basement, much further away from you to cause any harm or radiation. Lastly, the radiation norms are specified in terms of the irradiated norms, etc., so on and so forth. And those same norms also apply to smart meters as they apply to your microwave devices, the Wi-Fi routers, and cell phones in the house. So it's not a very different animal, but it's in fact a much better animal than your current cell phones and microwaves and Wi-Fi routers in the house. If that gives you some reassurance here.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your queries, Mr. Mandal. I can see one more hand raised, Mr. Ruman. Mr. Ruman, would you like to interact with the speakers?
I already have asked my question. I forgot to raise down the hand. Okay. Sorry.
Right.
Okay, so no more queries. This is the last call for the queries. Then we'll be ending the session. Okay. I would again like to announce to all the participants, if still some queries are left, you can mail them to the CBIP ID. We shall be contacting sir and will be replying you. So shall we end today's session, sir?
I'm okay, Ji. If Bishra Saab is okay, I'm absolutely fine, sir.
Mishra sir, shall we end? Hello, Mishra sir, am I audible? Okay. So I would like to thank all the speakers, Shri A.K. Mishra and Shri Ajay Rajani for their presentations today. Thank you all the participants for joining us and having interactions with the eminent speakers. Thank you, Shri A.K. Bhatnagar sir, Director CBIP, for the welcome address. Well, this will be the end of the first day of this national tutorial on smart metering. The agenda for today is over. Tomorrow there will be presentations from Shri Vineet Mishra, Director Technology, Ernst and Young, and there will be a presentation from Tata Power from Shri Saurav Chandel, Shri Ravindra Bhanej, and Shri Brajnath De. So all the participants can join tomorrow from the same link at the same time. So thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mishra sir. Thank you,
you.
Rajani sir.
Thank
Thank you all the participants. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
you. Thank you.